everybody, I'm Laura Trump coming to you from Studio 45 at Trump Tower in New York City. President Trump has called for national unity and new measures to prevent mass murders following the attacks in El Paso and Dayton that took the lives of 31 people. Joining me with his insights is a 38-year veteran of law enforcement, Steve Rogers. Steve, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure to be with you.
I wish we had happier news to talk about. This was a very tragic situation in our country that we saw happen in Dayton and El Paso. The president did offer a unifying and I thought a healing message to the nation, though. Take a look at this.
We cannot allow ourselves to feel powerless. We can and will stop this evil contagion. In that task, we must honor the sacred memory of those we have lost by acting as one people. Open wounds cannot heal if we are divided. We must seek real bipartisan solutions. We have to do that in a bipartisan manner that will truly make America safer and better for all.
Steve, what did you think of his tone? I really thought he hit the nail on the head with everything. What did you think?
Well, right out of the gate, he had talked about bringing comfort, reassurance, and healing, not only to the people that were affected by these tragic events, but to the whole nation. He set a tone of unity, and you know what the key word in that entire statement he made was bipartisan. He was actually reaching out saying, look, let's sit down and let's talk, and let's do what's right for the people.
Yeah, and I think that unfortunately, no surprise, the media did not focus on that. They chose to focus on other things. You have been highlighting things that this president has already done to try and prevent tragedies like this from happening. Tell me a little bit about what steps this president has taken up to this point to try and prevent something like this happening.
There are two methodologies that he has been encouraging throughout his entire term as president with regard to these incidents. First and foremost, let's not forget that it was President Trump who returned to police departments nationwide the tactical equipment that they needed in order to address these situations. So when we saw these tactical pieces of equipment that the police had, keep in mind, they're life-saving equipment that President Trump returned that President Obama took away. So there's your reactive methodology. Now let's talk about the proactive measures that President Trump has taken that is not widely advertised. To begin with, he has consistently talked about information and intelligence sharing between the people and the local police, and then the local police and state and federal authorities. And I remember way back he was talking about, let's return to a methodology called community policing. Let's get the cops back on the street. I'll do everything I could as president to make that happen. Why? Because the cop on the street knows the neighborhood, knows the people, right?
They do.
And who are you going to trust? You're going to trust Officer Joe, we used to call him in Brooklyn.
Guy that you see on the street every day. Yeah.
So they would provide that officer with information like, you know, the kid down the street or the man down the street, he's very depressed, he has weapons, maybe you want to keep an eye on him. So that's what President Trump has been doing with regard to a very proactive policing methodology. Second, he has consistently talked about a mental health crisis in this country. And what we need to do, and what I think he's successfully doing, is making sure that people who have mental health issues are not going to be stigmatized. They're not going to be stereotyped. They're going to be like anybody else who needs assistance in kind of moving along with their lives. So he has talked about bringing in who? Corporations, the educational institutions, and most importantly, and this is what the president, I always hear this, the president is loved for this one thing he always consistently says, let's bring the clergy in. Let's bring our ministers, our priests, our rabbis, no matter what faith you're in. Let's all come together. If you notice, he's been talking about coming together in unity. Nobody else is but him.
Isn't that funny how that works, Steve? I know we all of us who know him know that that's what he wants. He wants to unify. He wants to bring this country together. Sadly, you don't ever hear that reported. Now, sadly, threats can come out of anywhere. You, this week in particular, were targeted for things that you said supporting this president, and essentially what you're saying here right now. What happened with you? We're so sorry to hear about this.
Well, I now lived it. I now became a victim of these threats. I was on Fox News the entire weekend defending the president's policies with regard to these incidents in California, of all places. Now, here I'm in New Jersey, and someone in California took exception to my defense of the president. So, lo and behold, they go on a blog. And in that blog, to make a very long story short, they ranted about President Trump, about me, about the gun issue. But what was chilling was when we came to the part that maybe Steve Rogers should realize that he has a wife and children, and maybe the next time he walks into a Walmart, he will be the guy crying in the aisle with a bullet through his chest. Now, lesson learned. All right. Now, I hesitated. I looked at it. And you know what I did? I kind of just went about my business. And I'm thinking, just a person ranting. I'm on my way to a bookstore. And this thing really started to eat at me. And you know what I realized? I'm the guy telling everybody, if you say something or see something, say something.
Yeah.
I went right to police headquarters and reported it. And I want people to know that if after 38 years of experience I have in law enforcement, that I'm reporting something, then you go and you report it.
Yeah, that's right. And listen, you can never be too safe. We're sorry to hear, obviously, that happened to you. We in our family get crazy people all the time on social media, on the internet, saying horrible things to us. We're very fortunate we have protection of Secret Service.
But let me add this. The important thing is this. You don't give up. You go back and you fight and you fight.
You're here today.
Yep. And I went right on TV the next day and just went on to battle because they want to intimidate us and they want to bully us. Well, you know what? It's not going to happen with this guy.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate everything you do, and I'm glad to hear that they took the threat seriously and you and your family are being watched over. Now, the President and the First Lady did travel to Dayton and El Paso to console victims. Let's take a look at this video. All right, Steve, despite the malicious attacks against him, they went out of their way all week in the mainstream media, the Democrats, to attack this president. No matter what he does, it's never going to be good enough. He really does deserve credit, though, because I think the way he handled himself throughout these tragedies, going down to El Paso, going to Dayton, this is what a president is supposed to do. They are supposed to console the nation and communities when they're in mourning, when they're hurting. Did you think that he had the right approach this week?
Think about this one. The picture of the President and the First Lady spoke more than 1 million words coming out of the mouths of those people who criticized him. We not only saw a president there, we saw a loving father, we saw a loving husband and a loving wife and a loving mother who have children, who were able to bring their hearts and their souls to parents that were there and other victims. So, you know what? All the words spoken, nobody remembers that, all right? All they remembered is trash, but they remember the gold and the treasure that the president and his wife brought. And you know what the gold was? Buried in their heart, and they opened their hearts to the people. Yeah. And that's all I'm hearing about now. Wasn't it lovely? Wasn't it nice? And wasn't it beautiful to see our commander-in-chief with his wife by his side comforting those people?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that ultimately people know that this was the right thing for him to do. Now, sadly, if he weren't as strong a guy, he might have been intimidated by the media and not have gone to El Paso and Dayton because they kept continuing to report that nobody wanted him there. I think you're right. You look at the pictures, people were thrilled to have the president, thrilled to have the First Lady there, and it was the right thing to do. Listen, our hearts and prayers continue to go out to the people in Dayton and El Paso. We hope we never have any more incidents like this. But until then, the president is working to try and rectify a system that is broken, that, you know, nobody knows the solution to this, but he's doing all he can. And in the meantime, we appreciate your thoughts being here today and wish you the best and hope you stay safe as well. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
As these communities recover from these heinous attacks, Americans everywhere are joining President Trump in his call to put politics aside and focus on solutions to prevent such tragedies in the future. That's the real news for today. I'm Laura Trump from Studio 45 at Trump Tower in New York City. Thanks for joining us, everybody.